Nadine here. So, we've got apparently a lamp falling over. Dante's Inferno. Um, 1, 2, 6 to listen to. And, no, not the Inferno section. Dante's Divine Comedy. Purgatorio. 1 to 6. Let's see. Minor mishap. A lamp apparently wanted to commit suicide, but, hey, whatever. That's alright. A little chilly here today, so I got my thick sweater on. I'm working on my little dolly for my friend to strangle when she gets frustrated at somebody. So we're just gonna work on this while we listen to those chapters of the Divine Comedy. Hope you enjoy, and let's get listening.
Section 35 of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Courtney Langdon. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Purgatorio, Canto 1. Introduction to the Purgatorio. The shore of the island of Purgatory. Cato.
To run o'er better water hoists her sails the little vessel of my genius now, which leaves behind her such a cruel sea. And of that second realm I'll sing, wherein the human spirit purifies itself, and groweth worthy to ascend to heaven. But here let poetry arise from death, since holy muses yours I am, and let Calliope, here somewhat higher soaring, with those sweet tones accompany my song, whose power the miserable magpies felt so keenly that of pardon they despaired. The oriental sapphire's tender hue, now gathering in the sky's unclouded face, as far as to the first of circles pure, began again to give mine eyes delight, when forth I issued from the deadly air, which with its gloom had filled mine eyes and heart. The beauteous planet which incites to love, veiling with light the fishes in her train, was causing all the eastern sky to laugh. Round to the right I turned, and set my mind upon the other pole, and saw 4 stars, never perceived save by the first of men. The sky appeared to enjoy their little flames. O region of the north, that widowed art because deprived of gazing thereupon! When I had from the sight of them withdrawn, turning a little toward the other pole, whence now the wane had wholly disappeared, a lone old man beside me I perceived, deserving of such reverence in his looks, that no son owes his father any more. Long was the beard he wore, and partly white, as likewise was the hair upon his head, 2 locks of which hung down upon his breast. And so the rays of those 4 holy stars adorned his face with splendour, that to me coarse he looked as if the sun were facing him.
Who then are ye, that 'gainst the blind streams have from the eternal prison escaped?
He said, moving the while those venerable locks.
Who led you, or what served you as a lamp, when forth ye issued from the night profound, which makes the infernal veil for ever black? Are broken thus the laws of hell's abyss, or through new counsel is there change in heaven, that ye, though damned, are come to these my cliffs?
My leader thereupon took hold of me, and with his words and with his hands and signs imposed respect upon my legs and brow. He then replied,
I came not of myself. From heaven came down a lady, at whose prayer I helped this man with my companionship. But since thy will it is that our true state should be explained to thee more clearly, mine it cannot be that this should be denied thee. Not yet had this man his last evening seen, but through his folly was so near to it that he was left but very little time. As I have told thee, I was sent to save his life, nor was there any other way than this to which I have addressed myself. I have shown him all the people who are guilty, and now I mean those spirits to reveal who 'neath thy jurisdiction cleanse themselves. Long would it take to tell thee how I led him. Virtue descendeth from on high, which helps me lead him to see thee and to hear thee speak. His coming therefore please to welcome. Freedom he seeks, which is so dear, as knoweth he who gives up life therefore. This thou dost know, since death for its sake was not bitter to thee in Utica, where thou didst leave the robe, which on the great day will so brightly shine. The eternal edicts are not void through us, for this man lives, and I am not bound by Minos, but of that circle am, wherein the eyes of thy chaste Marcia are, O holy breast, whose looks implore thee still to hold her thine. For love of her then yield thee unto us, permit us through thy 7 domains to go. My grateful praise of thee I'll bear to her, if to be mentioned there below thou deign.
Marcia so pleased mine eyes,
he then replied,
that, while upon the other side I was, I granted all the favours she desired. Now that she dwells beyond the evil stream, no longer can she move me, by the law made at the moment when I issued thence. But if a lady of heaven impel and guide thee, as thou hast said, no need of flattering prayers. Suffice it thee that for her sake thou ask. Go then, and see that with a leafless rush thou gird this man, and that thou wash his face, so that therefrom all foulness thou remove. For 'twere not fit he went, with eyes o'ercast by any mist, before the first of those who serve as ministers of paradise. This little isle around its lowest base, down yonder where the waves are beating it, produces rushes on its yielding ooze. No other plant, like one that brought forth leaves, or hardened, can maintain its life down there, because it yields not when receiving blows. Thereafter be not hither your return. The sun which rises now will show you how to climb the mountain by the easiest slope.
Thereat he disappeared, and I arose without a word, and to my leader's side I closely drew, and toward him turned mine eyes. And he began,
Son, follow thou my steps. Let us turn backward, for the shore slopes down on this side toward its lowly boundaries.
The dawn was vanquishing the morning breeze, which fled before it, so that from afar I recognized the shimmering of the sea. We now were going o'er the lonely plain, as one who to a road he lost returns, and till he find it seems to go in vain. When we were there, where with the sun the dew still struggles on, through being in a place where, for the breeze, it slowly melts away, my teacher, having spread out both his hands, rested them gently on the tender grass. Whence I, who of his purpose was aware, yielded to him the cheeks my tears had stained. He then brought all that natural colour back, which hell had on my countenance concealed. We came thereafter to that lonely shore, which never saw its waters sailed by one who afterward experienced a return. Here, as the other pleased, he girded me, O wondrous sight! For like the humble plant which he had chosen, another instantly sprang forth again from where he tore the first.
End of Purgatorio, Canto 1. Section 36 of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Courtney Langdon. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Purgatorio, Canto 2. The shore of the island of Purgatory. The angel pilot and arriving souls.
And now already had the sun arrived at that horizon whose meridian circle rests with its zenith o'er Jerusalem, and night, which circles opposite thereto, was issuing from the Ganges with the scales, which, when she gains, are falling from her hands. so that the white and pure vermilion cheeks of beautiful Aurora, where I was, were turning orange through excessive age. Along the seaside we were lingering still, like folk who, taking thought about their road, go on in heart, but with their bodies stay. When lo, as, at the approach of morning, Mars, because of heavy vapours, groweth red down in the west above the ocean's floor, even so I saw, may I again behold it, a light which o'er the sea so swiftly moved, that no flight is as rapid as its motion. From which, when I a moment had withdrawn mine eyes to ask a question of my leader, again I saw it grown more bright and large. And on each side of it there appeared I knew not what white thing, and underneath little by little came another forth. Meanwhile my teacher uttered not a word until the first white objects looked like wings. Then, having recognized the pilot well, he cried,
See, see, now that thou bend thy knees, this is God's angel. Fold thy hands, henceforth shalt thou behold such offices as this. See how he so scorns human instruments as to wish neither oar nor other sail than his own wings between such distant shores. See how he holds them straight up toward the sky, stroking the air with those eternal plumes, which do not mould as mortal feathers do.
And then, as more and more the bird divine drew near to us, the brighter he appeared. Therefore mine eyes endured him not near by, but down I cast them. With a little boat he came ashore, so agile and so light, the water swallowed up no part of it. Such on its stern the heavenly pilot stood, that he would bless one were he but described. More than 100 spirits sat within.
When Israel out of Egypt came, when Israel out of Egypt came.
They all in unison were singing there together, with what is written after in that psalm. Then having signed them with the holy cross, whereat all cast themselves upon the shore, he went away as swiftly as he came. The crowd which stayed seemed strangers to the place, and gazed around them there, as doth a man who with unwonted things acquaints himself. The sun, which from the middle of the sky had hunted Capricorn with arrows bright, was shooting forth the day on every side, when those new people raised their brows toward us, and said,
If ye know how, point out to us the road that one should take to reach the mount.
And Virgil answered,
Ye perchance believe that we have had experience of this place, but we are pilgrim strangers like yourselves. We came just now, a little while before you, but by another way, so rough and hard that going up will now seem play to us.
The souls who, by my breathing, had become aware that I was still a living being, in their astonishment turned death-like pale. And as around a messenger who bears the olive, people surge to hear the news, and as to crowding none of them seem shy, so one and all those fortune-favoured souls fixed on my face their gaze, as if forgetting to go and make their spirits beautiful. Then one among them I beheld advance, in such a loving manner to embrace me that it persuaded me to do the like. O, save in your appearance, empty shades! 3 times behind it did I clasp my hands, and to my breast therewith as oft returned. With wonder I believe I painted me. Smiling because of this, the shade drew back, while following after I pressed further on. With gentle words he told me to desist. Then who it was I knew, and begged of him to stop a little while and speak with me.
As thee I loved, when in my mortal body,
he answered me.
Even so, when freed, I love thee. Therefore I stop. But wherefore goest thou?
Casella, mine, said I take this journey, that where I am I may return again. But why from thee hath so much time been taken? And he to me,
No outrage hath been done me, if he, who takes both when and whom he likes, hath more than once refused me passage here. For to a righteous will is his conformed, yet peacefully these 3 months hath he taken whoever wished to enter into his boat. Hence I, who now was toward the sea-shore bent, where Tiber's water mingles with the salt, was with benignity received by him, at yonder river's mouth, toward which his wings even now are turned, for those who go not down toward Acheron always assemble there.
And I, if some new law take not from thee the memory or the practice of the song of love, which used to quiet all my longings, be pleased a little to console therewith my spirit, which, because of coming here when in its body, is so sore distressed.
The love that talketh with me in my mind.
He thereupon began to sing so sweetly that still within me is its sweetness heard. My teacher, I, and those that with him were, seemed as contented as if none of us had any other thing upon his mind. Absorbed in listening to his notes, we all were motionless, when lo, the grave old man, who cried,
Ye laggard spirits, what is this? What means this negligence and standing still? Run to the mount, and strip ye off the slough, which lets not God be visible to you.
even as when picking grains of wheat or tares, doves, met together at their feeding, calm, and not displaying their accustomed pride, if anything appear that frightens them, all of a sudden leave their food alone, because assailed by greater cause for care. Even so I saw that new-come family give up the song, and toward the hillside move, like one who goes, but whither knoweth not. Nor was in less haste our departure made.
End of Purgatorio, Canto 2. Section 37 of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Courtney Langdon. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Purgatorio, Canto 3. Antipurgatory. The repentant who died excommunicated.
Although their sudden flight had scattered them over the plain, and turned them toward the mount, where justice probes us with its penalties, more closely to my faithful mate I drew. And how without him had I run my race, or who had drawn me up the mountain's side? To me he seemed o'erwhelmed with self-reproach. O conscience, when both dignified and clear, how sharp a bite a slight fault is to thee! When once his feet had given up the haste which of their dignity deprives all acts, my mind, to one thought limited at first, enlarged its scope with eager interest now, and toward that mountain I addressed my gaze, which skyward rises highest from the sea. The sun, which back of us was flaming red, in front of me was broken in the shape wherein I lent its rays a resting place. I turned, and at my side I looked, afraid of having been abandoned when I saw the ground was dark in front of me alone. When wholly turned, my comforter began.
Why still distrustful? Dost thou not believe that I am with thee, and am guiding thee? 'Tis evening now, where buried lies the body wherein I cast a shadow. Naples now possesses it. From Brindisi it was taken. If then in front of me no shadow fall, marvel no more than at the heavenly spheres thou wouldst, which hinder not each other's rays. That power enables bodies such as mine to suffer torments, both of heat and cold, which wills not that its ways be shown to us. Insane is he that hopes our human reason will ever travel o'er the boundless path over which one substance in three persons moves. Be satisfied, O human race, with facts, for if you could have seen the cause of all, no need had been for Mary to bear child, and you've seen, vainly longing, men so great that their desire would else have been appeased, which given them is for an eternal grief. I speak of Aristotle and of Plato, and many others.
Here he bowed his head, and saying nothing more remained disturbed. Meanwhile we had attained the mountain's foot, and there we found the rocky cliff so steep that legs would there be nimble all in vain. 'Tween Lerici and Turbia the loneliest and wildest path is, if compared with that, a safely climbed and easy flight of stairs.
Now, who knows on which side the hill so slopes?
Then said my teacher, as he stayed his steps.
That he who wingless goes can make the ascent.
Meanwhile, as he was questioning his mind about the path, and held his face bowed down, and I was gazing upward round the cliff. Upon my left a throng of souls appeared, who toward us moved their feet, yet did not seem to move, so slowly were they coming on. Teacher, said I, lift up thine eyes, behold on this side people who will give us counsel, if thou canst not obtain it from thyself. He then looked up, and with relief replied,
Let us go toward them, for they slowly come, and thou, sweet son, be steadfast in thy hope.
Those people were as yet as far away, after 1,000 of our steps, I mean, as a good thrower's hand would reach, when all pressed up against the lofty bank's hard mass, and stayed there still and huddled up together, as when in doubt a walker stops to look. Virgil began,
O ye whose end was good, O now elected spirits, by the peace which I believe ye all look forward to, say where the mount so lies that going up be possible for us, for loss of time to him who knoweth most is most displeasing.
As from the fold young sheep are wont to come by ones and twos and threes, while timidly the others stay with downcast eyes and muzzle. And what the first one doth, so do the rest, all huddling up to her in case she stop, simple and quiet, nor yet knowing why. Even so the leader of that favoured flock I saw startward then, and toward us come, modest in face and dignified in gait. When those who were in front the light beheld so broken on the ground upon my right, that 'gainst the cliff a shadow fell from me, they stopped and backward drew a little way, and all the others coming on behind, not knowing why they did so, did the same.
Without your asking, I affirm to you that this you see a human body is. Therefore the sun's light on the ground is broken. Be not surprised then, but believe that not without a power that cometh down from heaven is he attempting to surmount this wall.
My teacher thus. Those worthy people then, as with the back part of their hands they waved, said,
Turn then, and ahead of us go in.
And one of them began,
Whoe'er thou art, as thus thou goest, turn thy face. Recall if thou hast ever seen me in the world.
Toward him I turned, and on him fixed my gaze. Blond, handsome, and of noble mien he was, although an eyebrow by a blow was cut. When I had with due modesty disclaimed having e'er seen him there, he said,
Now see,
and showed me high upon his breast a wound. Then with a smile he said,
Manfred am I, the grandson of the Empress Constance. Hence I beg thee that, on thy return, thou go to my fair daughter, mother of the honour of Sicily and Aragon, and, should aught else be told her, tell her thou the truth. After my body by 2 mortal stabs had been pierced through, in tears I gave myself to that one who forgiveth willingly. My sins were horrible indeed, and yet the goodness infinite hath arms so wide that it receiveth all who turn to it. And if Cosenza's pastor, who by Clement was sent to hunt me down, had then perused this page in God's book, as he should have done, my body's bones would still be lying there, hard by the bridge's head near Benevento, under the keeping of the heavy cairn. Bathed by the rain, the wind now blows them round outside the kingdom, near the Verdi's banks, whither he moved them with extinguished lights. Not by their cursing is eternal love so lost that it cannot return again as long as hope hath still a speck of green. 'Tis true that he that dieth in contempt of Holy Church, though at the very last he may repent, outside this mountain's bank must stay for all the time that he hath been in his presumption, 30 times as long, unless by good prayers shortened be this ban. See now, if thou canst make me glad, by telling my good Constanza both where thou hast seen me, and of this interdict. for one is here greatly advanced by those that are beyond.
End of Purgatorio, Canto 3. Section 38 of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Courtney Langdon. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Purgatorio, Canto 4. Ante-Purgatory, the first ledge. Those who neglected repentance until death.
Whene'er, because of pleasure or of pain received by any faculty of ours, our soul is wholly centred thereupon, it seems to heed no other faculty. And this is 'gainst that wrong belief which holds that one soul in us or another burns. Therefore, when anything is heard or seen which toward it holds the soul intently turned, time passes by, and one perceives it not, since one thing is the faculty which harks, and that which holdeth all the soul another. This last is bound, as 'twere, the former free. Of this I real experience had, while hearing and wondering at that spirit, for the sun had climbed up 50 full degrees at least, though I had not perceived it, when we came to where those souls cried out to us together,
The place which you are asking for is here.
Oft doth a farmer, when the grapes grow dark, close up a wider opening in a hedge with but a little forkful of his thorns, than was the entrance there, through which my leader, and I behind him, mounted all alone, when once the crowd had gone away from us. One climbs San Leo, and then descends to Noli. One wins the summit of Bismantova, helped solely by one's feet. But one up here would have to fly, with the swift wings, I mean, and plumes of great desire, behind the guide, who gave me hope and furnished me with light. As up within the cloven rock we climbed, its walls on each side closely hemmed us in, while under us the ground both feet and hands required. When on the high cliff's upper edge we were, and out upon the open slope, "Which way, my teacher, shall we go?" said I, and he to me,
Take thou no backward step. Keep gaining ground behind me up the mount, until some guide who knows appear to us.
So high the summit was that it surpassed our sight, and steeper far the slope than were a line from centre to mid-quadrant drawn. Weary was I when I began to speak. O gentle Father, turn around and see how I remain alone, unless thou stop.
Draw thyself up, my son, as far as there,
he said, and somewhat higher pointed out a ledge on that side, circling all the hill. His words so spurred me that I forced myself to crawl behind him on my hands and knees, until the girding ledge was neath my feet. There both of us sat down, and faced the east, whence we had made the ascent, for looking back upon a traversed course is wont to help. First to the shores below I turned mine eyes, then raised them to the sun, and was amazed that we were smitten by it on our left. The poet well perceived that I was gazing dumbfounded at the chariot of the light, which now was rising between the north and us.
if Castor
Said he then to me,
and Pollux were in the company of yonder mirror, which up and down in turn conducts its light, thou wouldst the zodiac's ruddy part behold, revolving still more closely to the bear's unless it issued from its ancient path. If thou wouldst understand how this can be, collect thy thoughts within thee, and imagine both Zion and this mount so placed on earth that both of them one sole horizon have, and different hemispheres, and thou wilt see how that the road which Phaeton could not take, alas for him, must pass this mount on one, while passing that one on the other side, if thine intelligence but clearly heed.
"Surely, my teacher, never have I seen," said I, as clearly as I now perceive, where once my mind appeared to be at fault, how the mid-circle of supernal motion, which in a certain art is called equator, and ever between the sun and winter stays, lies toward the north, for reasons given by thee, as far on this side as the Hebrew people ever beheld it toward the heated parts. But if it please thee, I would gladly know how far we have to go, because the mount higher ascends than eyes of mine can rise.
Such is this mountain,
Said he then to me,
that always hard to climb at first below, it pains one less the higher one ascends. Hence, when so pleasant to thee it shall seem that going up shall be to thee as easy as floating with the current in a boat, thou then shalt have attained this pathway's end. Hope there to rest thee from thy breathless toil. No more I answer, this I know for truth.
When he had ended what he had to say, the voice of one near by cried out,
Perhaps ere that shall happen thou wilt need to sit.
On hearing this, we both of us turned round and saw a massive boulder on our left, which neither I nor he had seen before. Thither we drew, and there some persons were who lingered in the shade behind the rock, as one is wont to do through indolence. And one of them, who weary seemed to me, was sitting with his arms around his knees, and down between the latter held his face. "Oh, my sweet lord," said I, "turn thine eyes on yonder man, who shows himself to be more lazy than if Sloth his sister were." Then turning round toward us and giving heed, he moved his face no more than o'er his thigh, and said,
Go up now, thou that act of art.
I then knew who it was, nor did the strain, which quickened still my breath a little, hinder my going to him. Yet when at his side I was, he barely raised his head, and said,
Hast thou at last seen why it is the sun driveth his car o'er thy left shoulder here?
His lazy actions and his few short words impelled my lips to smile a little. Then, Belacqua, I began, I grieve for thee no more, but tell me why thou sittest here. Art waiting for a guide, or hast thou now merely resumed thy customary mood? And he,
What, brother, is the use of climbing? The bird of God, who at the gate is seated, would not allow me to approach the pangs. The sky must first turn round me here outside, as long as ever in my life it did, since I delayed good sighs until the end. Unless before then I be helped by prayers arising from a heart that lives in grace. Of what avail are those unheard in heaven?
But now the poet, climbing on ahead, was saying,
Come now on with me. Thou seest that our meridian by the sun is touched, and that already from the Ganges banks night covers up Morocco with her feet.
End of Purgatorio, Canto 4. Section 39 of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Courtney Langdon. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Purgatorio, Canto 5. Antipurgatory, the second ledge. The negligent who died by violence.
Already had I parted from those shades, and in my leader's steps was following on, when one behind me, pointing with his finger, cried out,
See how the light seems not to shine upon the left side of that lower man, who seems to act like one that's still alive.
Hearing this speech, I turned mine eyes, and saw that with astonishment they gazed at me alone, and at the broken light.
Why is thy mind so sore perplexed?
Then said my teacher,
That thou slackenst thy pace. What carest thou for what is whispered here? Follow thou me, and let the people talk. Firm as a tower remain, which never shakes its top, however hard the winds may blow. For from himself he ever turns his mark, in whom one thought wells up behind another, for each of them impairs the other's strength.
What could I say in answer, save, I come? And this I said, tinged slightly with the colour which sometimes makes one worthy of forgiveness. Meanwhile, a little way ahead of us, some people crosswise o'er the slope were coming, singing the Miserere verse by verse. When they became aware that through my body I gave no passage to the rays of light, they changed their chant into a long, hoarse
Oh!
And two of them, acting as messengers, ran out to meet us, and inquiring said,
Cause us to know what kind of life is yours.
My teacher answered,
Ye may go your way, and unto those that sent you out report that real flesh this man's body is. And if, as I suppose, they stopped because they saw his shadow, they've been answered well enough. If they respect him, it may profit them.
I never saw ignited vapours cleave at nightfall an unclouded sky, or break so rapidly from August clouds at sunset, that these returned not up in shorter time. And once there, with the rest they veered toward us, as would a troop that ran without a curb.
These people who are crowding us are many,
The poet said,
and come to beg of thee. Therefore go on, and listen on thy way.
O soul that goest to be glad,
they cried, as on they came.
With those limbs which thou hadst when thou wast born, a little stay thy steps.
recall, if thou hast e'er seen one of us, that yonder thou mayst carry news of him.
Why, pray, dost thou go on? Ah, why not stop?
We all were slain of old by violence, and sinners were until our latest hour. Then light from heaven so caused us to beware, that we, repentant and forgiving, issued from life at peace with God, who in our hearts stirs us with grievous longings to behold him.
And I, howe'er I gaze upon your faces, none do I recognize. And yet, if aught within my power can please you, well-born souls, ask it, and I will do it, by the peace which, following the feet of such a guide, hath now become my quest from world to world. And one began,
Each trusts in thy good help without an oath, provided lack of power cut not thy good will short. Hence I, who speak alone before the others, beg of thee, if e'er thou see the country which extends between your Romagna and the land of Charles, be courteous to me with thy prayers in Fano, that supplications do be made for me, to help me purge away my grievous sins. It was from there I came, but those deep wounds whence flowed the blood wherein my life resided were given me in the Anteronori's lap. Where I had trusted I should be most safe. The Lord of Este, who was angry with me beyond the bounds of justice, had it done. Yet toward La Mira I had only fled. When at Oriago I was overtaken, still yonder would I be where people breathe. Toward the lagoon I ran, whose reeds and mire so hampered me I fell, and there a pool formed from my veins I saw upon the ground.
Then said another,
So may that desire which draws thee to the lofty mount be granted. With kindly pity, prithee, help thou mine. I Montefeltro was, I am Buonconte. Giovanna cares not for me, nor do others. Hence among these I go with head bowed down.
And I to him, what force was it, or chance, caused thee to stray so far from Campaldino, that never hath thy burial place been known?
Oh,
he replied,
a river called Arciano flows crosswise at the Casentino's foot, and takes its rise among the Apennines of the Hermitage. There, where its name is lost, I came, a fugitive on foot, pierced through the throat, and staining with my blood the plain, and there it was I lost my sight, and ended speech with Mary's name, and there I fell, and all alone my flesh remained. The truth I tell thou among the living, God's angel took me, while the one from hell cried out,
Why dost thou rob me, thou from heaven? Thou bearest hence this man's eternal part, because of one small tear which takes him from me. But I shall with the rest deal otherwise.
Well know'st thou how damp vapours in the air, as soon as they ascend to where the cold affects them, into water change again. He joined that wicked will, which asks for naught but evil, with intelligence, and stirred the mists and wind, by power his nature gave. The valley thereupon, when day was spent, he covered o'er with fog from Pratomagno up to the mountain chain, and made the skies so lowering o'er it, that the pregnant air to water turned. The rain poured down, and what the soil absorbed not, reached the rivulets. Then, having joined the torrent brooks, it rushed so swiftly toward the royal stream that naught could hold it back. The swift Arciano then, hard by its outlet, found my frozen body, and, as it swept it on into the Arno, loosened the cross which with my arms I made upon my breast, when sorrow's pain o'erwhelmed me. Along its banks and bed it rolled me on, then covered me, and wrapped me with its spoils.
Prithee, when to the world thou hast returned, and when from thy long journey thou art rested.
After the second spirit said the third,
Do thou remember me, who Pia am. Siena made me, Maremma Mian made. He knoweth what this means, who previously had, in betrothal, ringed me with his gem.
End of Purgatorio, Canto 5. Section 40 of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Courtney Langdon. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Purgatorio, Canto 6. and to Purgatory, the negligent who died by violence, addressed to Italy and Florence.
Whene'er a game of dice is broken up, the one who loses, sorrowing, stays behind, and learns as sadly he repeats the throws, while with the other all the people leave. One goes before, one grasps him from behind, and at his side one asks to be remembered. And he stops not, but that one heeds, and this. The one whose hand he takes no longer crowds, and from the throng he thus defends himself. E'en such as he was I in that dense crowd. For as I this and that way turned my face, and promised each, I freed myself therefrom. Here was the Aretine who met his death from Rinditaco's cruel arms, and he who, running madly in pursuit, was drowned. Here Frederick Novello prayed with hands outstretched, and he of Pisa, who induced worthy Marzucco to reveal his strength. Count Orso I beheld there, and the soul through spite and envy from its body parted, and not, so he maintained, through crime committed. Pierre de la Brosse I mean. And here, while still on earth, let Brabant's lady see to it, that among the worse flock she be not for this. When I was free from each and all those shades, who only prayed that others pray for them, that their becoming holy might be sped, it seems that thou deniest, I began, O thou my light, expressly in a text, that prayer can cause a change in heaven's decrees, and yet these people only pray for this. Could it then be that this their hope is vain, or is thy saying not quite clear to me? And he to me,
That which I wrote is clear, nor yet delusive is this people's hope, if it be looked at with a healthy mind. For justice stoops not from her lofty height, because love's ardour all at once fulfils what he who dwelleth here must satisfy. And there where I decided on this point, the fault was not made good again by praying, because the prayer discordant was with God. Yet in so deep a doubt decide thou not, unless she bid thee do so, who a light shall be between thine intellect and truth. I know not if thou understand. I speak of Beatrice. Thou'lt see her up above, smiling and happy, on this mountain's top.
and I, let's go then, Lord, with greater haste, for now I grow not weary as before, and see the hillside casts its shadow now.
We shall go forward with this day,
he answered,
as long as we are able, but the case is otherwise than what thou deemest it. Ere thou shalt be up there, thou him shalt see return, who now so shields him with the hill that thou dost not compel his race to break. But yonder see a soul who all alone is seated, and toward us is looking now. He will point out to us the quickest way.
We came to him. O Lombard soul, how full of self-respect and noble scorn thou wast, and in the moving of thine eyes how slow and dignified. Naught did he say to us, but let us go our way, and only gazed as would a couching lion in repose. Virgil, meanwhile, drew near to him, and begged that he would show to us the best ascent. And he to his request made no reply, but asked us of our country and condition, and my kind leader was with
Mantua,
beginning, when the self-collected shade from where he was sprang up to meet him, saying,
O Mantuan, I'm Sordello of thy town.
and each the other thereupon embraced. Ah, Italy, thou slave, thou inn of woe, ship without pilot in a mighty storm, not queen of provinces, but house of shame. So instant ready was that noble soul, but at the sweet sound of his city's name, to welcome here his fellow citizen. And yet within thee now thy living sons are not exempt from war, and those one wall and moat enclose upon each other prey. All round thy coastline search its shores, poor wretch, and then within thy bosom look, and learn if any part of thee be blessed with peace. What boots it that Justinian rearranged thy bridle, if thy saddle vacant be? Had it not been for that, thy shame were less. And ye, ah, ye that ought to be devout, and so let Caesar in his saddle sit, if well ye heeded God's advice to you, behold how wild this animal has grown, through being uncorrected by the spur, since ye first set your hands upon her rein. O German Albert, Thou that dost forsake this creature now become untamed and wild, and oughtest to bestride her saddle-bows, may some just judgment from the stars befall thy blood, and may it so unheard of be and plain that it may frighten thy successor. For held by greed of lands outside its bounds, thou and thy father also have allowed the empire's garden to become a waste. Come see the Montagues and Capulets, Monaldi and Filipeschi, careless man, already troubled those, and these in dread. Come, come, thou cruel man, and see the oppression of thy nobility, and right their wrongs, and thou shalt see how safe is Santa Fior. Come see thy Rome, that widowed and alone is shedding tears, and day and night is calling. Why dost thou not, my Caesar, stay with me? Come see the people, how they love each other. And if for us no pity move thy soul, come then and shame thee for thine own renown. And, if I be allowed, O Jove supreme, thou that for us wast crucified on earth, are thy just eyes too turned away elsewhere? Or in thy counsels' depths art thou in this a preparation making for some good, from our perception utterly cut off? For all Italia's towns are full of tyrants, and the Marcellus every churl is deemed, who comes to play a party henchman's role. My Florence, well mayst thou be satisfied with this digression, which concerns thee not, thanks to thy people, who look out for that. Many at heart are just, but slow to shoot, lest to the bow uncounselled they should come. But thy folk on their lips alone are just. Many refuse to bear the common burden, but thy folk eagerly respond and cry, although uncalled, I'll load myself therewith. Be joyful then, since thou hast cause to be, thou that art rich, that peaceful art, and wise. Whether I speak the truth, results conceal not. Athens and Lacedaemon, they that framed the ancient laws, and were so civilized, in living well made but a little mark compared with thee, that dost so carefully provide thee, that thy fine October spinning as far as mid-November reaches not. How many times within thy memory hast thou changed laws and coinage, offices and customs, and thy membership renewed? And if thou well recall and face the light, thou'lt see thy likeness to a suffering woman, who on a feather bed can find no rest, but seeks, by tossing, to relieve her pain.
End of Purgatorio, Canto 6. Section 40 of the Divine Comedy by
Sorry about that. I had taken off my headphones and so I can go get something, and ended up not paying attention when we hit the end. So I am done her body, inner skirt, and I'm working on her head. She's a little empty-headed, half-headed. Okay, I never said I had any good jokes. And so yeah, I'm just gonna try and fix her up next time. Maybe later tonight I'll stream again. This darn book is so long. With the 6 chapters, which is about 40 odd minutes per stream, I've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 more streams to go. That's before I even get done that one book. And I'm finished the damn book because I started the damn book, so I'm finishing it. That's just all there is to it. And so I'll be doing this probably later on tonight or tomorrow. Otherwise, I hope you have an absolutely wonderful night, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.